FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone tonight, I'm talking with Andrew from the band Actual Villains. And of course, Andrew, this is the first time you and I have had a chance to talk. So first of all, welcome to The Dark. And how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, now I heard when you called in, I said, where are you calling from tonight? You said you're from Phoenix, or you're calling from Phoenix. And I'm like, well, I know you guys aren't from Phoenix. You're from Cincinnati. So what makes you go down to Phoenix at this time of year?
Yeah, you got me. I've always kind of been a snowbird at heart. So I actually grew up in Michigan originally, and so I'm no stranger to the winter weather. But I had been living in Arizona and then out in California in the Bay Area for several years before joining the prior band that was in close to home. Now, that band kind of became Actual Villains, so
Okay.
That's what ultimately brought me to Cincinnati.
All right, we'll let it go this time, okay? You're trying to escape the cold weather, which it's been brutally cold here the last couple of days here, at least in Minnesota. Hey, let's get to know about this band a little bit more, Actual Villains. And the one question I always like to ask is, how did this band all come about? And as you had mentioned in your just previous answer, it's kind of from another band. Talk about that.
Yeah, so as I said before, I was living in California in the Bay Area, and I was in some music projects out there and stuff as well. And an opportunity came for me to sing for the band Close to Home. And they were based out of Cincinnati, so I was really actively touring with them for several years, and kind of got to a point where it was kind of a logical decision to move out there just for the sake of making things easier and for cost of living and, multiple things. So, we had a few successful years together and had a great time, and slowly some of the members had kind of decided to move on to different things in their lives and kind of leave music behind. And so the lead guitar player, JJ, and myself decided to continue writing, and we weren't really sure if we were going to continue the name Close to Home at that point, as I wasn't really an original member, and it had been going for quite some time. So we kind of decided to start something fresh and something new between the two of us.
And then obviously you became Actual Villains. The name, Actual Villains, what's the meaning behind it, or why did you come up with that name?
Well, besides music, one of the biggest common threads that JJ and I have shared together is kind of a mutual love for comic books, and specifically for Batman, for the movies, for the whole franchise. We're both kind of big DC fans, so I was kind of binge watching Batman the Animated Series recently, after having not watched it for several years until when I was a kid. And the name kind of came to me then, as I was thinking about something with villains. And he loved it, I loved it, so we kind of just took it and ran with it.
And here you are today with the name, right?
Yeah, it's been about a year now since we first kind of put out our intentions to be this band and kind of made it known that we were going to be Actual Villains.
Now, you currently obviously have an EP out, and I've heard some of the songs off that EP, and maybe for some of our listeners that have not heard that, I guess kind of give us a little bit of a, if you had to break down the EP, kind of a little bit of the flavor of what that EP is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we took a lot of our influences from writing music early on and kind of lost the restrictions we had set for ourselves in Close to Home as kind of being more of like a metalcore band. We kind of went back to our roots a little bit and started celebrating the music that really got us to where we are now today. And that was influenced by a lot of bands like The Used and Taking Back Sunday and Starting Line. So you kind of hear a little bit of a mix of pop punk and hard rock and heavy metal influence. But it's all kind of polished up into a package that's a little bit more approachable, I guess. A little more radio friendly. It's a little bit less heavy metal than Close to Home was.
I was going to just say it is a little bit more radio friendly. And is that kind of the approach you guys are planning to continue to go in that direction now?
Well, part of this project was that we were kind of writing without limits. So I wouldn't be too surprised if you see kind of a mixture of things come out from us. We are definitely leaning a little bit more towards, I guess you would say, the mainstream as far as our sound goes. But there's always going to be kind of diehard, reminiscent sound in our music that's going to come through from our influence. And so, there's definitely going to be a touch of heavy metal thrown in there.
Gotcha. We're talking with Andrew with the band Actual Villains, and of course, we learned that he liked comic books, so that's the reason for Actual Villains, Batman. Talking about music, let's talk about that. As a kid growing up, what did you listen to? What kind of influenced you to go this direction and to be a lead singer of a band?
Well, I had a really strong background in pop punk, and JJ and I actually shared this common thread as well. He was really into a lot of the same bands. I would say one of the most early influential bands for me was MXPX.
Okay, yeah.
I can remember even about 9 or 10 years old, discovering them and running up to tell my mom excitedly that one day I was going to have tattoos like them and look like them and play music like them. And
How was your mom's reaction to that?
She wasn't too fond.
Okay.
Bless her heart. She's been, supportive of my life now as an adult, but she wasn't too fond to hear that when at 9 or 10 years old.
Well, she's probably your number one fan now, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, bands like Blink-182, Green Day, kind of some of the earlier pioneers of the punk music were
right.
Some of the biggest pushes towards getting into playing guitar and playing music and singing in general.
Any kind of Rancid, Black Flag, any of those two, or not really so much?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta have love for all the classics, too,
All right, there we go. The reason I bring that up, because back in college radio, a guy that I worked with, he was just huge into that punk scene. He even had his little own punk show back in the 90s, pushing that 80s stuff, which is really cool. So, very cool. Got to get that influence back there a little bit. As we mentioned, we're talking with Andrew from the band Actual Villains, and you guys have come out right now and decided to do a cover of a current song that is blowing up, I guess, the hot Billboard charts, that being the song Closer from the Halsey and the Chainsmokers. I guess the question on that, first of all, is how is that being received out there? And then secondly, what was the reason you decided to go with something as a cover like that?
I'm glad you asked. As you probably have seen, if you've seen the video,
yeah.
There's definitely a throw out there to our love for Batman as well, as we kind of did almost kind of a shot-for-shot take on like a parody of the original video for it, but with Batman and his girlfriend running around.
So I finally actually, after hearing you say you have the love for Batman, now the video makes sense. So that's cool, because when we post it on our website and our Facebook and that, now people listen to the interview and they see it, they'll be like, oh, now I understand what that's all about.
Yeah, it was just kind of a fun video and a fun song for us to do. And we had been tossing around ideas for covers for years, even in Close to Home, and we just never really could put our finger down on one that we were excited about doing. And we kind of had narrowed it down to we were going to do a Blink-182 song, because that was one of those bands that was massively influential to both of us as co-creators of this band. We thought we'd throw like a little homage out there and do something with our own twist to it. And we heard this song, and it threw out that mention in there, that play that Blink-182 song that we burned to death in Tucson. And I was like, first of all, that's hilarious, because here I am planning to move back to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the reference to Blink-182, and then, the song was undeniably catchy and fun. And
right.
As we started putting together our version of it, we're like, this really kind of feels like one of our songs. The way we played it, like it felt like it would fit right in with our song. So we're like, this is just too natural to pass up on. So we just dove in and did it.
Awesome. Are you kind of hoping that song kind of propels you to the next level, I should say, and kind of like, you go back to a band currently now that's starting to get a lot more airplay, nationwide here, is I Prevail, when they did Blank Space with Taylor Swift. Is that kind of the idea that you were trying to get here a little bit?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're not trying to make money off that cover or anything. We're not even selling it. It was
right.
really just kind of to give our fans something to chew on for a little while in between us releasing our own original tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we hope to get as much attention as possible out of any release, but ultimately I would hope that our original music would be ultimately what catches on the most.
Right.
However, I would never complain if somebody found us because they heard the cover first. That's all part of the game. Absolutely.
You mentioned hearing about you now. What is the scene like, I guess, in Cincinnati when it comes to rock?
It's been up and down. I would say the recent years have not been the best. Years prior, there was a great scene there. I do see a little bit of a resurgence of like a good pop punk scene. There's been a couple bands that kind of paved the way in the city besides close to home, like Boy Meets World.
Yep.
I know they just did the circuit on Warped Tour. They're great. Settle Your Scores is a new up-and-coming band from Cincinnati.
Okay.
They kind of were similar to like Close to Home as well. They do a little bit of like a Day to Remember vibe, like kind of a little bit of a hardcore and pop-punk mix.
Right.
But they're definitely making waves in the city as well. And obviously it's home to some huge bands back in the day. You know, Black Veil Bride started there, Foxy Shazam, Walk the Moon. I mean, there's definitely a tremendous amount of talent in that area.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, having a festival, too, like Rock on the Range, which isn't too far away from Cincinnati. It's in the same state, at least, okay? That has to definitely help, too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Columbus is a different story. Columbus, I think, has a really strong scene, and they are kind of a good stop for major tours and stuff as well. Like you said, Rock on the Range is massive. That's one thing I wish I was going to be around for this next year, too, because I just saw the lineup, and it looks great.
Yeah, that does. And, you know, one band I think that really kind of got discovered from Rock on the Range, which is an Ohio band out of Akron, Ohio, is Red Sun Rising. You know those guys at all or heard about them?
I heard of them, don't know them, but we've made really good friends with, like, Danger Kids from Dayton, Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
A few other, Sea of Treachery, you know, several other bands that have made waves or come out of there. The heavy metal band Miss May I are good friends of ours.
Very cool, very cool. We're talking with Andrew, the lead singer of the band Actual Villains. So you did a cover song, obviously, which with a current song that's been #1. The question I always ask, though, is if you had to do somebody had to do a cover for you, okay? So somebody out there had to do an Actual Villains cover. Who would you like to have cover an Actual Villains song?
Oh, you know, I'd really like to hear like a unique female version of it. So
okay.
I would love to have somebody like Paris or Paramore or something like that.
Yeah.
Like a girl rock singer that's got kind of a unique vibe. I think that would be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, you mentioned, or we talked about you have an EP currently, but you're working on hopefully a full-length album you're coming to sometime soon here in 2017. Is that the plan?
Yeah, it's been a little bit slow going, but we're in the process of kind of in pre-production, writing through some new songs right now. I'm hoping to actually get back in the studio here in the next few weeks, even to start getting some early demos out and get further along in the writing process here and start planning for the future.
And how about touring in that? Any plans on that maybe in 2017?
We're definitely working on that. We just hired a great manager, Jordan Washam from Rebellion Noise, and you know that's part of the plan here. But first things first, we want to kind of knock out a couple of new songs in the studio and have some fresh stuff to promote. And then we're definitely looking with optimistic eyes towards 2017 for some good opportunities.
Awesome. When do we expect some new stuff from you then?
I wish I could give you an actual date today, but it looks like it's probably a few months out at this point. So.
Okay. And obviously, the first time we've had a chance to talk to you and the listeners have found out about this band, but if they want more information about the band Actual Villains, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, you're welcome to check out our website, actualvillains.com, or find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of our social media accounts we keep up to date and we personally run. So it's a great way to keep in touch with us and find out what we're up to. Awesome.
You know what? We're going to play your cover song here of Closer. You okay with that?
Absolutely.
We're going to do that for you. And thanks so much for joining me, by the way. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk you down the road. Okay, Andrew?
All right.
Once again, that is Andrew. He's the lead singer of the band Actual Villains. You want to hear their version of Closer? You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.